Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. I am the real Mark Goldbridge. If you've looked at my Twitter, there is an AI one out there. Be careful, but this is the real one. Don't worry about that. Lots to talk about. Sorry I'm a little bit late. There is a bit of breaking news around the sale and debt coming in from Mike Keegan in the Daily Mail. So I was just reading through that. So I'll give you all the latest on that. Also, Manchester United believed to be back in for Harry Kane. The truth about why we didn't get Rabiot. My reaction to the fact that David De Gea is being kicked out of the club by Eric Ten Hag. How difficult is that for me? I like them both. Where do I sit on that and what's going to happen? Because there is a strong rumour coming out of Portugal that a club in the Premier League is going to sign Costa from Porto, the goalkeeper. What does that mean about Onana? Is it Manchester United? We'll talk about that. Lots to get into on the show tonight. What a fantastic interview it was with Chris Wheeler and Adam this afternoon at 4 o'clock. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Never heard from Chris Wheeler, verbally before. I've read some of his articles. What a fantastic interview it was. Definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. Covered a lot of things, the budget, all sorts. Remember I said David will sit on the bench 200k a week, says Rory. Right, let's get into it. Before we get into it, though, it's Boohoo Man. I'm wearing my Boohoo Man top. Look at that, hey? I've got some of my gym wear on. I mean, the only gym wear thing about this is when I lent it to my mate Jim. I don't go down the gym. I don't need to. Look at that. It's all going on. We're sponsored by Boohoo Man. That means you get 40% off with the code Goldbridge. Scan the QR code next to me or go through the link in the video description. But as always, because Boohoo Man are sponsoring our show, we've got a bit of Man United trivia for you to give you. But don't forget, Boohoo Man, when you want to look good this summer, you can get all sorts of clothing for in the house, out the house, on your holidays, gym wear, five-a-side wear, the lot. 40% off as well. Get some stuff like this. Absolutely fantastic value for money. And with 40% off at the code Goldbridge, check it out at the checkout. Okay, who am I talking about? I was born on the 11th of July, 2002 in the Ivory Coast. I know this already. I know it. Oh, I've got it wrong. I thought it was Eric Bailly. I joined Manchester United in January 2021 from Italian club Atalanta. I scored my first goal for United on the 11th of March in a 1-1 draw against AC Milan. For the last 2 seasons, I've been on loan at Rangers in 2022 and then in Sunderland last year. I was voted Sunderland's Young Player of the Season in my recent loan spell. Who am I? Of course, it's Ahmad. It's not Eric Bailly. I went off the first clue based on nationality. I got it wrong. It was Ahmad. Big thank you to Boohoo Man, as always, for supporting the show. Don't forget, you can get that huge 40% off when you use the code Goldbridge at checkout. What you're waiting for, head over there now. Big shout out to Boohoo Man. We love Boohoo Man on this channel. It is, of course, Ahmad. Right, we're going to fly straight into the show. Tap your head and rub your tummy to prove it's you and not the AI bridge. Yeah, I can barely do that, Joshua, but thank you. Lots to get into on the show tonight. Where should we start? I mean, look, the thing I want to start off with, actually, I'm going to talk about Harry Kane. I'm going to talk about Costa, the goalkeeper. We're going to talk about David De Gea. We're going to talk about Mason Mount. We're going to talk about the budget. We're going to talk about Rasmus Højlund, who actually acknowledged me on Instagram again today. He put a picture out. I put fire, and he DM'd me. I'm not going to tell you what he said because that would be wrong. But anyway, there we go. We're going to move on. We're going to talk about what has just come out from the from Mike Keegan. So basically what he's saying is that as of last night, no preferred bidder had been chosen, with the season less than 7 weeks away. Look, Mike Keegan's very well tapped in on this deal. He's one of a few journalists who are, and that there is no preferred bidder. You know, all this deal done crap, it was crap. It was crap. I want it to be true. We all want it to be true. Preferred bidder, they're going to win. They're keeping it quiet for this. They're keeping it quiet for that. The cold, harsh fact is we all were fed a load of shit last week, and there is no preferred bidder for Manchester United. So that's where we're at the moment, and I think people have known that for a few days now. So no preferred bidder, nobody in the loop as to whether they're going to win or not. I still strongly suspect Qatar are ahead, but not so far ahead that Sir Jim couldn't pull it back. So no preferred bidder at the moment. That is where we stand. And more significantly from Mike Keegan, Manchester United's gross debt stands at a staggering £725 million. Now, some very good people were protesting outside the megastore today. Some people think it's because of the kit. Some people think it's because of the sale. I don't really care what they're protesting about in relation to specific things. I think the biggest thing that we should all be absolutely appalled by is that this football club, not only has it been in debt for nearly 20 years, not only have they taken loads of dividends out, not only have they run the club badly, but £700 million of debt. It's bloody disgusting. The stock price is apparently up, Kevin. We'll talk about that. Mark, my lawnmower 10.0 won the Dragon's Den contest, says Nelson. And if I could describe this transfer window of ours with a piece of commentary, I'd use the words of Wayne Mardell's commentary in the World Darts Final. I can't speak. And that's from Tay. Also, don't forget this. Stevens just gifted 5 United Stand memberships. What a legend. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you very much. But look, I think with the debt, Quasim says, I super chatted last month and asked about the transfer window excitement. You were excited and hopeful. How do you feel now? I feel I haven't moved an inch. You pretty much got that going. How long will it take to recover from the Glazers, says Daniel. Well, look, there's a lot I want to talk to you about tonight, but this debt thing is incredible. And if you didn't watch the video at 4 o'clock today with Chris Wheeler, another journalist mentioning financial fair play in relation to this summer transfer window. And, you know, I listened to that. It's well worth a watch, like I say. But either every journalist thinks we're impacted by financial fair play, or Manchester United are telling the journalists that we're impacted by financial fair play. And we're the only club who's using it. Man City aren't mentioning it. Arsenal aren't mentioning it. Chelsea aren't mentioning it. Liverpool aren't mentioning it. Newcastle aren't really mentioning it. And yet Man United cannot stop mentioning financial fair play restrictions. They must be in love with financial fair play at Man United. They must absolutely love that financial fair play is a word. Because it doesn't exist. It's a bit like bloody Jack and the Beanstalk. It doesn't exist. It's just a story. But United are latching onto it because it's a way not to spend money. And I think that... opinion on Gary Neville joining Dragon's Den, says Daniel. Can we talk about that in a little bit? We are massively in debt. That is why we can't spend money. Old Trafford needs renovating, knocking down, or rebuilding, whatever. That's going to cost a lot of money. The reason United are not spending a lot of money this summer, and the reason our budget is 120 million quid, and we've got to make the rest from sales, we've qualified for the Champions League, we've won the Carabao Cup. You know, that's revenue that we might not have got. So we've got more revenue from the Champions League qualification than we probably thought we were going to get. The budget's low because we're owned by the Glazers. The budget's low because we're in terrible financial trouble. The budget is low because the Glazers have run the club badly. And what they're doing is, and we must not allow it, they're using financial fair play and sort of going, forget the £700 million debt, forget the hundreds of millions we've taken in dividends, forget the fact we've been in debt for years, forget the interest repayments that run into, I think, over £1 billion, and forget the fact that building a stadium is going to cost £2 billion. So basically, forget about £4 or £5 billion worth of money we've wasted at this football club. The real villain's financial fair play. And I'm like, sorry, I know journalists have got to put what they've been told, but we don't have to, and you don't have to, and this fan base doesn't have to, and we're not sat here this summer not spending money because of financial fair play. But it's the biggest myth in the world. We're not spending money because we're in debt. We've got to build a stadium. We've got debt repayments to pay. We've got dividends that have gone out over the years. That's why we're not spending money. It's not because of financial fair play. And they'll go, well, it is. It is, because look at how much we spend on wages, look at how much we spend on transfers, and look at our revenue. We can only spend between there, Mark, so you're wrong. But I'm not wrong, because you've run the club badly. You give out stupid contracts, you pay stupid wages, you pay stupid transfer fees, and then you don't sell the crap. That's why we're the only club that you can manipulate to say financial fair play, financial fair play. I walk into that club and I listen to my CEO and he says, well, it doesn't matter whether you're Qatari or Sir Jim. It doesn't matter whether you've got billions to spend. You can't because of financial fair play. I go, you're fired. You're fired. You fucking idiot. You're fired. You know why you're fired? Because you're an idiot. idiot. I've got billions to spend on this club. I'm going to build a stadium. I'm going to build a new tramway. I'm going to buy loads of players. And you prat, are telling me I can't do because of financial fair play. You're an idiot. You're an absolute idiot. Of course I can spend my money because I'm going to get somebody who knows what they're bloody doing. I'm going to get the guy from Chelsea. I'm going to get the guy from Newcastle. I'm going to get the guy from Man City because you're a bloody idiot. I'm surprised you know what 2 + 2 is. It's Matic. You absolute prat. Get out of my sight. You're fired. Because I'm hearing people say, if Qatar come in, United is still going to be stuck with financial fair play. No, we're not. The first thing I would do if I was Qatar coming into Man United with billions to burn, I'd say, what? Can one of these prats explain to me why financial fair play is impacting us, but it doesn't impact Man City and it doesn't impact Chelsea? You've got loads of money. I've got loads of money. We're Manchester United. We've got loads of fans. They're loyal. We can sell this ground. We can expand this ground. And you're telling me I can only spend 120 million quid because of financial fair play? Why? Wow, because of our spend on wages and transfers. Get rid of the shit. Get rid of Maguire. Get rid of bloody Martial. Get rid of Sancho. Get rid of Fred. Get rid of McTominay. Get rid of them. And then tell me how much I can spend. Well, you can spend 250 million now. Yes, I can, you bloody idiots. Now do your bloody job, you twats. It's not 120 million spend now, is it? Because I've got rid of a load of this shit. Why have you not figured that out, you absolute prats? Well, the Glazers didn't want us to figure that out because then you can pretend that you can only spend 120 million. Happy days. Give me 5. Give me 10. Cash back. That's why. That's why they're talking about financial fair play. Because if they use financial fair play, they can only spend 120 million. They only want to spend 120 million. That's why they're saying it. Well, financial fair play, financial fair play. An owner that wants to actually be successful walks in, clears the shit, clears the wage bill very, very quickly, and suddenly you can spend 250. But the Glazers don't want to do that because they never want to do that. Hi, Mark. It's been 4 years since we signed someone in June. The last one was Wan-Bissaka. That's the reality. Oh, it's disgusting, Anthony. We ignore January and we ignore June. Dragging out this Man United sale feels like an act of vengeance by the Glazers on a fan base which detests them. Could be sacking. Could be. Blowits, welcome to the Members Club. And I feel like the same news and articles have been recycled the last month and a half. No progress at all. Did we really expect a good transfer window? Says Mario Branco. And the board is completely inept, says Z3 Music Official. The reason we can't sign anyone is because everyone knows they get desperate to save face and will eventually fold. Thank you very much for Z3. Look, I know I get very, very passionate about this, but I don't profess to know everything. I'm gonna eat some humble pie about De Gea in a minute. But I will not, and I will not do it because, some people in this fan base are fantastic and they get very, very passionate about things like protests and, full sale and, certain signings and certain players. And, there's so much passion in this fan base and you should never, you might not agree with it, but you must never dismiss it because it's passion for the thing that they love. And we all love this club for our own reasons. But what I will not do, I will not do it. I don't care who the journalist is. I don't care who the club representative are. And there's some fantastic people who work at Man United and there's some fantastic journalists. And I'm not disrespecting them. I'm just not agreeing with them. This financial fair play excuse is a nonsense. It is an absolute nonsense. Go and understand what financial fair play is because I am tired, and I'm sure you are as well, of reading that United can't spend a lot of money this summer because of financial fair play. And I'm even reading that Manchester United wouldn't be able to spend much money anyway, even if they got Qatar. And I feel like you failed your exam. You've got the blue tick, you've got your job at The Athletic or the Manchester Evening News or wherever, and you completely do not understand what financial fair play is. You cannot say that financial fair play is limiting United's transfer budget and it would limit Qatar, because you're completely dismissing what financial fair play is. And why is it not limiting Chelsea? Because Chelsea are selling players all over the place so that they can creep up. The more you sell, the more you can spend. It's as simple as that, because the wage disappears and money comes in. So if we want to spend more, we've got to sell more. It's as simple as that. But some people don't understand it and they sit there and go, it wouldn't matter what they did. It's the debt. The debt's actually nothing to do with financial fair play. In no way does debt impact on financial fair play. Financial fair play is about revenue compared to transfer spend. And that's where, you know, if it was about debt, we wouldn't even have the Glazers. I wish debt was a problem in football, but it's not. We could be 2 billion in debt and we'd still would be allowed to be run by the Glazers. So that's nothing to do with it. Man City owners have personally invested 1.5 billion. Financial fair play allows for that. Financial fair play is flawed, but not why they can't spend, says Michael. Exactly. And hi, Mark. What's happened to the extra cash we got for winning the Carabao Cup and getting into the Champions League, says Angie. Exactly. Look, I'll call the myth out. And I'll even be fairer than this. If a particular journalist or mainstream media wants a good conversation about financial fair play and Manchester United, give me a call, because I'd love to. I'm very passionate about it, and I'll tell people why it's a big load of bollocks, and the actual reason we're not spending money is because of their bloody Glazers and their incompetence. We all know it. Lee says, get on with it. Well, I think if you're intelligent, Lee, you probably will have enjoyed the last few minutes because it plays to the intelligent people. But let's play for the basics, like Lee. Is waiting to go and watch Love Island. Love Island Lee. Let's hit the latest transfer news. So, okay, so we'll start. So I'll start off with Harry Kane, but I'm very aware that I need to talk about De Gea because Ten Hag wants to get rid of De Gea, and that sort of makes me a bit of a hypocrite. So I'll talk about that because I'm not scared of losing. I hate it, but I'll always face up to it. Right, let's get this. Don't forget that John Murta is working from 6 a.m. till 10 p.m. every day. What on earth is he doing with that laptop, says United Forever. I think John Murta's got a lovely cottage in the middle of nowhere and his internet is like AOL dial-up. I think that's the problem with John Murta. He probably is working 6 till 10, but if he had decent internet, he'd probably get it all done in 20 minutes. Any news on Frankie de Jong? Mother-in-law wants to know, says Shane. No, nothing today. And do you think that De Gea's contract was Ten Hag versus the board? If so, I'm impressed with Ten Hag battling for ideas and sticking by his guns, says Joshua. I'm going to talk about the De Gea thing. I think it's a disgrace. And I'm not going to absolve Ten Hag of blame. And I'll tell you why in a minute. But let's talk about Harry Kane. Interest rates always go to cause a massive issues till the Glazers go. Players are valued higher because in our books they are assets against our club. You're spot on, Adve. Can we come back to that? It's a great point. He's absolutely spot on. It's another reason why financial fair play, the Glazers use it, but it's their fault. But Harry Kane, a bid went in from Bayern Munich today for Harry Kane. It's been rejected. It was 70 million euros, which is just over 60 million quid. It's been rejected very, very quickly by Spurs. The Athletic are saying that Man United are out of the Harry Kane race, but this belief, and they're out of the race because they didn't think Daniel Levy was going to sell. However, there is now starting to be belief that they will actually sell, and this is making Man United think again. And that is why it says on the thumbnail, not again, because I actually don't like this. I like Harry Kane. I think he'd do a great job at United. I always preferred Osimhen, but if Osimhen wasn't available, I'd be happy with Harry Kane. That's always been my stance. I had a preference. But I think that this is a worry. You know, the Mason Mount deal is rolling on and on. United have said they're not going to spend any more than £55 million, and yet they're now going to have the meeting, according to Romano. They are going to meet with Chelsea in the next 48 hours. On Friday night or Saturday night, we heard that United refused to meet them, and then 4 days later they're going to meet them. If they'd met them on Sunday or Monday, we'd be 3 days ahead of this. You know what I mean? It's amateur hour, isn't it? Chelsea wanted to meet Man United about Mason Mount on Saturday. United said no. And now United are saying, yes, we'll meet on Thursday. We've just wasted 4 days. 4 days in a transfer window that's only probably got another 70 to go. That's a percentage. That's about 5% of your transfer window wasted not doing anything. So look, that's dragging out. If you go and bring Harry Kane into the equation, how long's that going to drag out? I was quite impressed with the way that we dealt with the Harry Kane deal, to be honest. We said we're interested. Spurs said absolutely not, and we walked away. We've walked away. You know, this is a little bit like, you know, you go to your favourite restaurant, it's closed. You're walking away from it, we'll go to another restaurant, and then you see another couple walking towards it saying, I've heard it might be opening at 8. You know it's closed. But you've took that rumour and you're going back again. You're wasting your time. Go to another restaurant. Because you're all going to stand outside the door and it's still going to be closed. Are you going to wait till tomorrow? No, we could be eating now, and that's what we need to do. New goalkeeper will be interesting as we can play higher now, and we'll have a goalkeeper who has a bravery coming off his line and not turning his body away. Says Doe. I mean, I don't think now's the time to start shitting on a club legend, really, Doe. Will be interesting to see if financial fair play goes out the window on 1st of July when our credit card is back to 260 million credit after being cleared on the 30th of June, says Glenny Boy. And I'm sick of the depends on sales narrative. We just won't sell players because they're assets and our Arnold and Merton are too competent to sell, says Jared. Great point. But look, let me just say this, and I like the interaction. So would you go back in for Kane? Yes or no? Would you can only vote once, Robert, if you're watching. So the indication is that, well, we know Bayern Munich have bid today. It's been rejected. There's now belief that Daniel Levy will sell him. But if we go back in, we're going to waste all the other time we've done. Rasmus Højlund, for example. If we go back in for Kane, we could mess up that Rasmus Højlund deal. We could walk away from that deal. And my biggest fear this summer has always been we go in for Kane and we risk it. And again, look, what did I say about Mason Mount? There is absolutely no way Spurs are going to go, oh, we're glad you've come back. You can have him now for £80 million. Get him on your pre-season tour. Get him ready for the start of the season. Oh, you know what? Have you realised you're playing his second game of the season? That'll be interesting because it's our first home game of the season and you're playing us. So Harry Kane will be playing his first home game of the season with us at the Spurs ground. Happy days. Get him on the tour. Get him ready to go. And then by the time you play us, he'll be absolutely settled in and you can smash the shit out of us. It's great. Never going to happen. Never, ever, 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 ever going to happen. Spurs are never going to give us Harry Kane before the second game of the season, which is nearly the end of August. So knowing that, forget about it. Walk away. Just walk away. And we were walking away and we should not be encouraged to go back in. Because even if we get encouragement, they will never sell us Harry Kane before the middle of August. In which case, we've screwed up the pre-season. We screw up the start of the season. We walk away. And you know what we do? We close the deal on Rasmus Højlund. We get the Rasmus Højlund deal done. That's what we do. And then what we do is, and you're going to hate this, but this is what we do. We close the Rasmus Højlund deal. We have a striker. We get the bloody midfielders in. We get the goalkeeper in. And we start the season. And then by the back end of August, maybe we've been bought by Qatar. And then we go and chuck a stupid offer at Spurs or Napoli for Osman right at the end of August. And I can live with that. Because we've already got Rasmus Højlund in. But for now, get the striker in. Get them on tour. And if at the end of August something mad happens with the sale, go back in for somebody. Go and put a stupid offer. Even Mawani. But get a bloody striker in now and start getting the summer transfer window moving. And remember, you can always go for Harry Kane next season. You can always go for him in January. You can always go for him in next summer. But look, we've got to get this summer transfer window moving. IZ, thank you very much and welcome to the members club and appreciate that. Now, but nobody's really acknowledged that, have they? Nobody's really thought of it like that. Let's get some business done. And if we get this sale done, and I don't necessarily think we will, but let's get some business done. What did Rasmus say, says Scott? I can't tell you. Let's get this business done. And then, if by some miracle we actually do get sold to Qatar, I'm sure they wouldn't mind trying to get something done at the end of the window. But we absolutely cannot wait on Harry Kane any longer. We've got to move on. And if Harry Kane wants to go abroad, he'll go abroad anyway. Let me talk to you about Rabiot very, very quickly. Story came out from Italy that Rabiot has signed for Juventus because Man United pulled out again because his mother wanted 10 million as a signing on fee and then 10 million after tax every year in wages. I mean, I don't know what's true. I mean, it looked to me like Rabiot chose Juventus. We dodged a bullet, Reba, we did. But the only you can only. I read the super chats way. Shut up. I just can't stand people who do that. Get out. Just putting the same message in all the time. Like, we've literally read all the super chats and we've caught up. Joshua Bowwater says Rabiot pulled a Ramos. Says Joshua Bowwater. I think in relation to Rabiot, I don't know what I prefer. What would you prefer? Would you rather Harry Kane? Sorry, would you rather Rabiot snubbed us for Juventus, or would you rather United pulled out again because of stupid wage demands? Because this is what we did last year. John Murtagh flew out to Turin, and he chose to come back because the Rabiot mother wanted to rip him off. And a year later, we try again, and they tried to rip us off. I mean, we're talking about wasting time. We've just wasted God knows how long on Rabiot again. I mean, it's... What's that saying? You know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different outcome. I mean, his mum wants 10 million and then they want 10 million a year. It's not far off what they wanted a year ago. And yet we've gone back in again. This is why you need a good director of football. Because I understand Ten Hag. I do understand Ten Hag saying, look, I like Rabiot, go and get me Rabiot. And that's what happened last year. And John Murtagh comes back and says, I tried, Eric, but they want stupid wages. But when Ten Hag says this summer, I want Rabiot, and then you go and try again, what you should say is, I'm not going. But I want him. I'm not going. Find somebody else. I'm not going. Because I wasted time last year. We can't waste any more time, Eric. It's absolutely fine to say no to Eric Ten Hag. He's not bloody the god of football. You know, he's been beat 7-0 at Anfield. He got beat by Brighton and Brentford. He's been beat by Newcastle. I love Eric Ten Hag. I think he's the right guy. Sir Alex Ferguson got beat. Sir Alex Ferguson made bad transfers. So did Pep. So did Jose in his prime. These managers, as much as we adore them, and I absolutely love Eric Ten Hag and what he's doing, and I think he's the right guy, but he's better if he's got someone telling him no. But it's got to be good. You can't have Mourinho saying, I want to sell Martial, and then Joel Glazer saying he's one of my favourite players, you can't sell him. That's just incompetence. What you need is a really good director of football who knows when to back Ten Hag to the hilt, but also knows when sometimes to say no. We all know this. We all know this. You know, I've got people who I work with, and they know when I'm in a bad mood, and they know to leave me alone, and they also know when I'm doubting myself and to encourage me. And I need that, because if everybody's just... I've seen people in this industry who everybody just kiss their arse, and they become complacent. They become, not very good at what they do. So look, Ten Hag would be a better manager if he had a brilliant director of football and a brilliant CEO who are as good as he is and back him when he needs to be backed, but tell him when not. If I'd been the director of football this year and Eric Ten Hag had said to me, try and get Rabiot again, I'd have said, Eric, we've got so much to do. You want me to sell these players? You want to buy these players? And I'm going to do it because I agree. I think we should be selling Maguire. I think we should be selling Henderson. I think we should be selling even De Gea. But I also want to go and get you Mason Mount. I want to try and get you Rasmus Højlund. I want to try and get you Kim Min-jae. But I'm not going to go and try and get you Rabiot. I will back you on all the things that I think you're right about. But I think this Rabiot thing's a waste of our time. Because we tried it last year. He's greedy. His mum's greedy. And they're going to be greedy again. So we're just wasting time, Eric. I know you think he's a good player, but surely there's some different options. And that's what you need. Because we've wasted time on Rabiot. Exactly, Mark. Klopp wanted Julian Brandt, but his director of football suggested Salah, and look how that turned out. Look, if you read your books like I do, and if you study the game and transfers like I do, you'll know that, look at Pep with what he's got at Man City. A manager can't do it all on their own, and they're never 100% right. We desperately need somebody. I mean, I can't believe United have negotiated with Rabiot again. To be told the same thing, he's too greedy. I mean, it's ridiculous, but it is what it is. Let me talk to you about David De Gea. I know a lot of you people are very interested about this. So, Chris Wheeler was on at 4 o'clock, and obviously I did the video about De Gea just before that. So, to recap, United offered David De Gea a contract. He was on £375,000 a week. They offered him a contract. He signed the contract, but United pulled it away. The contract he was going to sign was believed to be around £200,000 a week, so a reduction from 375 to £200,000 a week. They offered him that contract, and he was going to sign it, and then United pulled it. Apparently, Ten Hag pulled it. Now, the contract that is on offer now is believed to be between 140 and 180, somewhere between there. And the reason they pulled it is because Ten Hag wants another goalkeeper to challenge David De Gea. Effectively, potentially wants a number one goalkeeper. So United have pulled the contract and reduced the wage again, and David De Gea is now thinking about whether he wants to sign it. Safe in the knowledge that if he does sign that contract, it's still very, very good money, but he may well not be Man United's number one next season, especially if they go and buy someone like Onana or Costa, who we're going to talk about in a minute. So Erik Ten Hag has been a factor in this, and United have followed his lead. I heard about this a couple of weeks ago, and I said, what a crock of shit. And I think people interpreted that I didn't believe it. And they'd be right, because I still can't believe it. I don't believe it. I do believe it now because it's come out as true, but I still do not believe it because, and I'll talk about what I think about Ten Hag in a minute, but I cannot believe, and this might surprise people, would you take Ranić back as director of football? Yes, I would, Shane. Yes, I would. Love the content, Mark. You make me feel laugh when I feel down. Keep it up. And a side note, how many transfers do you think we'll actually make? I'll come back to that, I see. But I think that there's two things I want to say, but the one thing that might surprise people is David De Gea shouldn't be at Man United anymore. And that's a really hard thing for me to say. But now that we've established what the truth is, that United were offering him a good contract and he was ready to sign it, and Erik Ten Hag has stuck his nose in and said, I don't want him on that amount of money because I actually want somebody else as number one. You need to reduce it down again. I think this is ridiculous. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. At that point, we shouldn't be offering a contract at all. If Erik Ten Hag has decided that he doesn't want De Gea earning 200 grand a week because he doesn't want him to be the number one, then we should be letting him go. Because you absolutely cannot give a goalkeeper... Look, let's pretend it's 140, but it could be more. You can't pay a goalkeeper £140,000 a week to be the reserve goalkeeper. You cannot do that. Any football club that gives a reserve goalkeeper more than £50,000 a week is thick. Like, it's the one area of the pitch where your reserve goalkeeper has to be fundamentally a reserve who, maybe plays Carabao Cup games in the early rounds. Your number one goalkeeper, unless you're ridiculously unlucky, will play over 90% of your games and have no problems at all. You should never, ever be paying £140,000 a week to a reserve goalkeeper. So I don't understand what United are doing here. I understand the detail now. It very much feels like De Gea is going to be, at the very best fighting for his place, but by the sounds of it, second choice. And that's Ten Hag's prerogative. I don't have a problem with that. Ten Hag is the manager and you've got to back him. I don't want De Gea to go. That's a sentimental thing, whatever you call it. I like De Gea. I don't want him to go. I've always liked him. I don't want him to go. I'm not going to change that. But if Ten Hag wants him to go, Ten Hag wants him to go. But what I don't understand is, and I know there's a lot of people out there going, my manager, get rid of that crap keeper and all that. And I get that. I do get it. Honestly, I do. But what I don't get is why people are thinking this is good business. It's still really bad. It still doesn't make any sense. It's still United. Because what I don't understand is, why didn't we just give him a send-off after the FA Cup final? Why didn't we make this clear that he wasn't going to be the number one goalkeeper anymore? He's had a fantastic career at Manchester United. This is going to be the end of David De Gea at Man United. He's won the Golden Glove. He's playing an FA Cup final next week. Everybody's at Old Trafford. Thank you for everything you've done, David De Gea. That crowd would have erupted. Even though people would have wanted him to leave, they'd know he was leaving. They'd look back on what he's done and they'd go, the place would have erupted. Thank you very much, David De Gea. You've been a great legend to the club. You've been a great servant to the club. Hope you do well in the cup final next week. But regardless of that, well done. Off you go. And that's what should have happened. And I would have been sad, but that's what he deserved. And that's what should have happened. What I don't understand is how we've gone from De Gea, Ten Hag doesn't want him as his number one. Why? He's out of contract anyway. Why have we gone from, let's just give him a really respectful send-off, thank you for everything, David. Why have we gone from that to offering him reserve goalkeeper position on a third of his wages in June? I just don't get how there was a really good way of doing this and we've done it in a ridiculously stupid way. I don't get it. And we've even offered him a contract and then we've pulled it away. It's whoever's involved, whether it's Ten Hag, the club, it's really amateur. It's really fuzzy thinking. Because obviously they've gone from one position and then they've gone, no, let's change it. No, let's change it again. And I think every step of the way they've made the wrong choice. What they should have done, if he's not the number one goalkeeper anymore, they shouldn't have renewed the contract. And they should have said, you're going and we want you to get the send-off. I think everyone's going to agree with me here, whether you're pro De Gea or against De Gea. This middle ground is really disrespectful and wrong. Like, you can't pay £140,000 a week to a reserve goalkeeper. And it's stupid to keep him as a second choice goalkeeper as well. He's better than that. He's not a reserve goalkeeper for Manchester United. So we should have just cut the apron strings and said, it's the end and there's your send-off, well done. Because he's entitled to a testimonial, even if those things don't really exist anymore. So, look, I back De Gea, I back Ten Hag, but I have to side with Ten Hag. If he wants to make a change in the goalkeeping situation, I back him. He's the manager. He lives by that. I trust him on that. But I think the way we've handled it is just baffling. Absolutely baffling. It's not the first time we've done this. We did it with Ander Herrera. We did it with Patrice Evra. We did it with Robin van Persie. No send-offs, really. It was, just badly handled. But this is one thing that needs to change at Manchester United. And again, it comes down to what I was talking about a few minutes ago. It comes down to having a decent director of football. Because a decent director of football would grab hold of this sort of thing and say, we can't be doing this, Eric. We can't be, he's staying, he's going to be the number one goalkeeper. And then a week out from the end of his contract, no, we're not giving you that contract, we're reducing it again. There's better ways of dealing with this. And you're telling me that you've figured out that you need a ball-playing goalkeeper in June. I think you figured this out in March. So why have we elongated this? Why have we put De Gea through this? Why have we put the fans through this? Why did we not just say, fantastic servant to the club, you're leaving in the summer, enjoy the last few games, receive your send-off from the fans, go and earn some good money in Saudi Arabia, and we'll move on. It's baffling how we've handled this. I think the high-profile errors towards the end of the season were difficult to ignore. That must have changed Eric Ten Hag's mind. You have to rock the boat sometimes, says Anav. Yeah, but even then, he could have dealt with it quicker. We've just dealt with it very, very badly. Glazers took out more than a few hundred million from clubs' profit in the past 18 years. If financial fair play ruling only allows you spend what you earn, why can't St. Jazim fund a few hundred million back against the withdrawn profit once he buys, says Suber. Anyone can understand a manager wanting to make a change, but the treatment of De Gea is not only disrespectful, but incompetent and weak, says Stephen Rossi. Ten Hag lied saying David wasn't going to leave. I'll never back this manager. I support the badge. That's it, says SD. Glazers are overhauling players, have Maguire as a 100 million asset, so when they sell at 40 million, shares will take a hit due to a 100 million asset only going down for 100 million, says Damo. Realistically and 100% honest, when do you think the first transfer will be? Also, is Højlund transfer still alive? Haven't heard anything in a while, says Luke. Yeah, look, Rasmus Højlund is still, when it happens, you'll know where you heard it first. Rasmus Højlund is still there to be done. I won't put him in the 90% club because I think that's a jinx. And I won't say it's definitely going to happen because it's Man United dealing with the transfer. And you're absolutely correct to say until the shirt's held up, I won't believe it. But believe Eric Ten Hag wants him. Believe he wants to come to Manchester United. And you can say nothing's happening with Rasmus Højlund, but we know we're going to buy a striker. And nothing's happening with any striker publicly. So I think United, I saw something today about the sale and how the board are very much in agreement that nothing should happen before the June the 30th in relation to a sale. So nothing will happen. But maybe they're doing that with purchases as well. I totally agree with you, Mark. It shows they have a lack of vision in the future, says... thank you very much for that super chat. George says, no Rabiot, Mount, Kane, Ramos, Frankie de Jong. Kim Min-jae, Rice, Osman and the Glazers stays. That's where we're heading, says George. They were trying to be nice to a legend, hoping he reads the room and leaves. We all love David, but Erik ten Hag knows he needs to move him on, says Humphrey. But Humphrey, that's not right. They weren't trying to be nice to a legend and hoping he reads the room because he's out of contract. You don't need to be nice. You just say, we're not renewing your contract. Why are we offering some... we're not a charity. David De Gea has earned very good money at this football club. We don't need to keep him at the club on a charity wage of 140,000 quid as a reserve goalkeeper. You just let him go. Ten Hag would have agreed that contract. He also went back in for Rabiot, gone back in for Mount, possibly De Jong. I'm questioning Erik ten Hag, says Glazers out. I feel like being in negotiations with De Gea gives us bargaining power when trying to get a new keeper. Maybe that's why it's prolonged, says Olivia. And we had a clear number 2 in Romero, and even he was done dirty by the club. Talk about a guy who knew his place, says Eno. Exactly. The way we treated Romero was disgusting as well. I can always remember Sir Alex saying, if we go for players, it's important we get them. The Glazers clearly don't think like this. We are a joke, says Michael. Look, in relation to the transfer window, it's chaotic. We already know that. Interesting on the poll, would you go back in for Harry Kane? 55% of you say yes. 45% of you are a no with me. So 55% of you would be happy to go in for Harry Kane again. And happy to wait until the end of August to get our striker, which means you would be happy not to have a striker on pre-season, not to have a striker for the first 3 games of the season. So therefore, I presume you would be happy if we take 3 points from our first 9, because that's what's going to happen if we haven't got a bloody striker. Interesting that you would be willing to risk waiting all summer for Harry Kane and be Daniel Levy's puppet. But look, on the other hand, he's a fantastic player. If De Gea played for City, had they won the 3 or not, of course they would. So the decision is ridiculous, says Joseph. Thank you very much. Look, in relation to the summer transfer window, whether you're thinking about David De Gea, whether you think about Harry Kane, Mason Mount, Kim Min-jae, Rasmus Højlund, Harry Maguire, whatever you're thinking about, this summer transfer window, and you can take this as read, is absolutely chaotic at Manchester United. They are changing their minds by the hour. As I said the other day, United's targets coming into this summer transfer window weren't even a goalkeeper. It was Kim Min-jae, it was Rabiot, it was Mason Mount, and it was Harry Kane, and that was the 200 million gone. They're changing their mind. Oh, we're not getting Harry Kane, so we get someone a bit cheaper, and we're going to get a goalkeeper. We're not getting Kim Min-jae as well, so we can still get a goalkeeper. We're not getting Rabiot. We still want Mount. Maybe we bid for Rice. What about Casido? It's all over the place, and it's not stabilised. I think that's I've told you that before. You know all that, but what the breaking news is, it's not stabilised. United, they're like a bloody bottle top in a bath when the water's going out. It's just and the water's still in the bath. It's not settled yet at all. No one's put the plug in. It's rough waters, and United are all over the place. So I don't think that's going to change for another week or so. We are still all over the place. No signings in, no signings out, no real clear indication of who the targets are and what we're going to do. A lot of the players that you'd think we were going for now as well, like the Monaco centre-back or Rasmus Højlund or, anybody else, one of the goalkeepers. There's no real reason why we can't do it. We're just all over the place. That's why. An owner who wants to spend will find a way to get past financial fair play. The problem is the Glazers do not want to spend. Spot on, Shaheen, and very succinct. We need a director of football and a team to do transfer stuff. The fans are getting annoyed at Erik ten Hag when it shouldn't even be his job. Right people in right jobs, says SK. If United lose 100 million asset for 40 million, that affects the share price and quite possibly a hit on the sale price, as the assets would lose 60 million in value, says Damo. And sad day, Mark. Can't believe time has come for the only player that made us relevant after the Sir Alex era, says Franco. Look, I said to you a few days ago, I think that David De Gea will leave. What happens with the goalkeeper will be very interesting. A lot of people have been talking about Anana, but the Portuguese reports are saying that Costa from Porto is heading to the Premier League for about £40 million. Where would he be going in the Premier League? Newcastle have got Nick Pope, Ramsdale's at Arsenal, Edison at Man City, obviously Alisson at Liverpool, Chelsea need a goalkeeper. Potentially he could go there. Manchester United, obviously I think a lot of people would like that. But Spurs need a goalkeeper as well. They've pulled out the David Raya deal. So there are other options, but Costa is a goalkeeper a lot of you like. United must know Levy sells to Bayern for much less, says Ima. And welcome to the Members Club, Luke Hughes as well. Litz says, I'm worried that there aren't many good midfielders left with so many clubs needing midfielders. I'm worried we will be missing out. Wish we could just make competent deals because we need players, says Lit. Yeah, look, I tell you what though, I mean, what's very, very clear, and I haven't covered even 10% of what Chris Wheeler said to Adam at 4 o'clock. Chris Wheeler of the Daily Mail, he was the person who put that list out at the start of the week with all the players on and whether they're available and prices, and he had Jadon Sancho on there and Donny van der Beek. So look, if you've got time tonight, later on, watch that video because there's so much stuff in there that I've not even covered. But what I did find interesting is, and I agree with Chris Wheeler on this, and it might be where I got the information from or read it a few weeks ago, but United's transfer budget is something people really obsess about. United's transfer budget is universally known to be about 120 million quid. We will spend 200 though, if we shift some players. So the reason I talk about 200 a lot is because that's what's available when we sell some of the players. But the actual money in the bank is 120 million at the moment, and then the rest will have to come from sales. Ranić said, with due respect to Klopp and Pep, their success wasn't only from them, it was the club. Feels to me as if Ten Hag isn't getting the help, says Rory, 100%. So we need to sell some players, don't we? We need to sell some players to boost that transfer budget, and there's not really been a lot of movement on that at the moment. Well, I've got an interesting take on that. If David De Gea goes, we don't get a transfer fee. He's gone. You save a little bit on wages. He's on about, what, 1.3 million pounds a month in wages. So that saves you close on 15 million quid in a year with David De Gea going. It all adds up. So, yeah, there's a bit of money made from that. Harry Maguire has to go. That's £200,000 a week. That's another £10 million a year. And you get a bit of a transfer fee as well. Scott McTominay. There's interest in Scott McTominay. His wage isn't that big, but you'll get about 30 million quid for him. So straight away, you've got a good 60, 70 million. You sell Dean Henderson, you've made your 100. So they're the players I should be looking at. It's interesting what Chris Wheeler said, though. He said he'd be very surprised if Fred is still at the club at the end of the month. I've never been consistently a fan of Fred. I do like Fred, but sometimes he's absolutely shocking. But I find it really, really surprising that Fred is the scapegoat, the expendable, the player that we all expect to go for about 20 million to Fulham. And I'm like, it would be criminal if Fred gets sold and McTominay and Maguire stay. And I'll tell you why. Because Fred absolutely 100% has had a much better season than McTominay and Maguire. In fact, he's had a better season than McTominay and Maguire combined. I know Fred's been infuriating at times, but you look at his good points, that pass towards the end of the season where he took 4 players out, the performance against Spurs before Christmas. I know Fred's infuriating, I know he's inconsistent, but he's shit all over McTominay and Maguire. Like, he's had a much better season than them, and yet there seems to be this acceptance in the fan base that we'll jettison Fred and we'll just keep McTominay and Maguire because of their passport. And I'm like, that's not how you run a football club. You can't run a football club like that. You can't be talking about passports. You can't be talking about, let's get rid of him because he's easy to get rid of. That's not how you run a football club. The reason they're difficult to get rid of is because they're not good enough. You don't get rid of Lindelof or Fred or people like that because they're easy to get rid of. There's a reason James Garner was easy to get rid of. There's a reason Fred's easy to get rid of. It's because they're decent players that other clubs want. The reason Maguire and McTominay are difficult to get rid of is because not many people bloody want them. So how can we become a better football club if we get rid of the club players that clubs want and we keep the ones they don't? I mean, by definition, that's going to make us worse. If you're keeping the players people don't want and selling the players people do want, we're left with the bad players. So, there's just general acceptance that Fred's going to go. And I think he will. But logically, it's just another failing because he can go, but there's a lot of other players that have got to go before him. You can't just cash in on him because other clubs want him. Move better players out. Yeah, move worse players out. Hi, Mark. Should happily take De Jong and Kane for 100 million each over 5 to 6 players this window, says Sharon. I think it will feel weird without David next season. I wish David all the best. He deserves better, says Cameron. Funny enough, not even Harry Maguire deserves the treatment, but this is bad management, says Irvin. Look, in relation to David De Gea, I will back the manager. I completely understand and always have understood why people want a more modern goalkeeper. I didn't think it was a priority this summer. I would have brought a young goalkeeper in that is the potential to grow next to De Gea over the next 2 years. That was my preference. I wasn't blind to the weaknesses of De Gea's game. I just didn't like the idea of getting rid of him now and bringing in a new goalkeeper. I would have done it as a transitional thing because I saw what happened with Schmeichel and it was a bloody disaster. Schmeichel left, new goalkeeper came in, everything was going to be fine until it wasn't fine. And we brought some good goalkeepers in and they just couldn't handle the pressure. I hope when De Gea goes, we go for Onana, and I hope it works really, really well. But if at some point next season we get rid of De Gea and a new goalkeeper comes in and they're making loads of mistakes and they're struggling, I will sit here and say, I won't say I told you so because I don't want to see a new goalkeeper come in and fail, but I will say I could see this was a risk. I've seen it. There's not many advantages to getting old, but having been here for a few years, I've seen United go through this. It's a tough job. What was the name of the goalkeeper that we had from Newcastle? Dubravka. Remember that game he played? Dubravka. He couldn't even kick a ball. He just absolutely lost his head. I've seen Dean Henderson do it as well. It's a big, big pressure being a Manchester United goalkeeper. I don't know what it is. I don't know why it's different to playing in goal for Tottenham or Brentford or whatever, or France or whatever. I mean, Barthez was the same. But there's just something about being a Man United goalkeeper that you've got to have that Schmeichel, De Gea, Van der Sar. In my lifetime, which is, 40 years, I've seen 3 goalkeepers that were good enough to wear the Man United shirt. 3 in 40 years. Schmeichel, Van der Sar and De Gea. It's not a very good strike rate, is it, in 40 years? Now, granted, De Gea's been there for 10. Schmeichel was there for a long time. It's not easy, but it's not the same. It's the same as the striker we bring in. I've seen strikers be brought into this club. I've seen Varane come to this club. I've seen good players come to United and not perform. It will be a risk. It will be a risk, but I hope it doesn't come down to that. But I think that, innocence of youth, whatever it is, sometimes experience can be a good thing. And I hope that all these hipsters who tell us that let's get this ball-playing goalkeeper in and everything's going to be fine, I can see the logic, but have they experienced what it's like to change your goalkeeper at Man United? Because we haven't changed our goalkeeper since 2011. That's 12 years ago. So let's hope it goes smoothly. And look, Ten Hag obviously believes it will, and you've got to trust the manager. Absolutely. Just make sure you smash a like on the video and subscribe, by the way. I was going to go back into financial fair play, but I think we've been there. Adam, I agree. Onana, Champions League final, big game mentality, confidence. He's the one for me. He's the one. If De Gea goes and it looks like he is, you go and get Onana. I've been saying it for the last 2 weeks. You've got to go and get a personality. Barthez had a personality. It didn't work, but it doesn't mean it, Barthez was a funny one because he wasn't really a goalkeeper, was he? He was very small. I think Onana has to be the guy. Would you take Callum Wilson at Man United, says Adam? No. Glazers see players as assets and added value of the club on a spreadsheet, says Sam, which is why extend players' contracts. says Sam. And 2 strikers and a new goalkeeper gets us 15 more points. Keep Martial as 3rd striker. Temple, we've got to get a midfielder, mate. I don't disagree with about 2 strikers and a goalkeeper, but you cannot go into next season with Casemiro being the only player that can play defensive midfield. You can't do that. We'll lose games. We'll lose games. Ladios says, great show tonight. I've really enjoyed it, and I feel like I could go on for ages and ages, but we'll pick up. I'm sure we can pick up it up again tomorrow. Share price is normal, says AK. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Fantastic show tonight. Absolutely loved it. Don't forget, we're sponsored by Boohoo Man. Link is in the video description. 40% off, and I don't know why I want to say trim the grass. That's something else. 40% off. I've been wearing some of my Boohoo Man stuff tonight. 40% off with the code Goldbridge. You can either scan the QR code with your camera phone or go through the link in the description. Get yourself kitted out. Very reasonably priced. Big shout out to Boohoo Man. Big shout out to you. Take care, everyone. I'll speak to you soon.